Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and having a fantastic week. In today's video we're doing another of my reacting to my subscribers' cage setups. You guys seem to really enjoy these videos. I enjoy making them as well and seeing your setups, getting inspiration as well. So I thought we'd do another one. I think it's part 5 today, so we've done quite a few already. And as I said, I really enjoy making them. And if you'd like to take part in the next one, all of the information is going to be down in the description. But I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody who has submitted for today's one. You can be anonymous or you can have a shout out. Quite a few people prefer to be anonymous and that's okay, but the point of this video is not to kind of criticise people or say, oh, you're doing everything wrong. The idea of this video is to learn where we can make changes to make our birds' lives even more enriched, get inspiration from each other, and also really highlighting where you're doing an amazing job. So I hope you enjoy this video and let's get straight into it because we've got quite a few today. So the first submission is a ginormous cage for 9 lovebirds. This is a really interesting size cage. It kind of looks like an aviary setup, which I think is awesome because it provides a lot of space. Obviously it's kind of subjective as to, I don't know measurements because I'm only looking at photos, but I can see a little lovebird in the top right corner, and that just shows how huge the space is, which is awesome. So they can get a few wing beats in there and kind of flap around in there, which I think is great. The long ladder is interesting. I'd be curious to know if the birds actually use that ladder or if that's perch on it. There's also a tray in there, could be like a foraging tray, I can't quite see into it, but that's cool. You've got some bowls on the front, you've got some like boings and hanging perches, they look very interesting. So yeah, it's a really lovely space to work with. And I think my main kind of suggestion would be just to revamp the space, and don't be afraid to put in some more perches, some straight perches. I know you've got a great high up perch there which would be brilliant for sleeping, but if you find that they kind of scuffle a little bit with who likes to sleep where, you could put some more higher ones up. And maybe just fill it with some like shreddable toys, just some things to really get them busy. As I said, I don't know what's in this kind of tray here, it could be a foraging tray, I'm not sure. But just provide different opportunities, and where you're putting these toys as well, always try and have a perch too, because it makes it a lot easier for them to enjoy these toys and really get their beaks busy, because lovebirds are very good at shredding, as are pretty much every single parrot. Maybe consider stainless steel bowls, just because they are just a little bit easier to keep clean. That's just personal preference. I also like there's like halfway up there's a really cool like natural branch with loads of kind of bits coming off. That's very cool. And I suppose again something that one of the main topics we talk about in a lot of videos is maybe consider having a substrate base, because you've got this huge space which is amazing, and if you can encourage them to go down to the floor to kind of ground forage and generally play down there and utilise that space as well, I think they'd really enjoy it. So this is an amazing space to work with. You're doing really well so far, but I think giving it a bit of a revamp, maybe adding in some extra toys and perches would be awesome. And thank you so much for submitting your photo. So the next person would prefer to remain anonymous, which is totally cool. In this cage they have got 2 yellow-sided green cheek conures, which is the same kind as Scampy. And I really like this setup. This looks like a Liberta Oregon style kind of cage. I think it's slightly different, but it's got the 2 doors opening up, which is quite useful to access different levels. Got stainless steel bowls in there, which is awesome, and of course you've got the substrate in there, either easy chick or easy bird, whichever one it is. That's brilliant, and fantastic opportunities for foraging and also floor toys as well. I see you've got some bits down there, ladders as well, brilliant stuff. There's lots of toys, and I know you sent me a few photos and there's like lots of play stuff above. You can see a few bits on the cage as well. I think that's really cool. I just think this is a really brilliant setup, and it looks like there's loads of different opportunities for the birds to have a lot of fun. If I had to give a couple of suggestions, maybe a couple more perches in the different layers, just to provide even more opportunities for lots of fun, because sometimes I think people are a little bit nervous about putting kind of too much in a cage, and you can have too much sometimes, but I think it kind of depends on the individual. So if you can maybe pop in a couple more sort of short natural perches, maybe just a few more toys. I mean, they've got a lot, as I say, but I think this is a brilliant space to be working with. You've got a platform perch in there and like a busy mat at the back. One thing you could maybe consider if you don't do it already is switching out the toys. For our cockatiels I do it daily, for the conures I do it sort of once a week depending on which toys they really like. So you could potentially switch out the toys regularly and just mix up where the perches are, just to make it really interesting. But I absolutely love this space, and you're doing an amazing job with these 2 beautiful conures who are in the photo as well. And this person also has a budgie as well, so we're going to have a look at the Budgies Cage, and the budgie's in there as well on the perch, which is very cute because I love seeing the birds in the photos that you send me as well. This is a fairly decent sized cage. You've got stainless steel bowls. You have got several bowls. I'll be curious to see what you have in those bowls. For us, we literally have a bowl for water and then a bowl for food, and with the food they get fresh in the morning, and then in the afternoon it gets cleaned out, and then we give them the dry bits. So I normally only offer a bowl for food and a bowl for water. However, Olive does actually have one of these stainless steel bowls like in your photo, and we actually use it as like kind of a toy bowl. That could be an interesting idea for your budgie as well. We just put kind of broken toy parts in there, or bits of balsa wood or yucca, and she loves going in there and seeing what's in there. It can turn it into kind of like a foraging tray, so that would be really cool. I love all the natural branches in there. There's a platform perch and like a party preener one with the sticks coming out. Lovely circle. It looks like it's made out of maybe vine, I'm not quite sure. And another kind of busy mat thing as well. There's loads of awesome things going on, and again, substrate base. You know we love the substrate base on this channel. If I had to make a couple of suggestions though, for me, I am not keen on the shoelace toys. I know you've got kind of the like the Converse trainer toy at the top there with the beads on, and then you've got like the shoelaces hanging down. There are some people who really promote these toys. I don't personally like them because I think they're too much of a crop impaction risk. You know, if your bird really gets interested in it and they start chewing it and they take on all these fibres, I just think it's a bit too much of a risk, especially when there are kind of safer alternatives such as paper strips or cardboard strips, safe bird leather as well. You can make your own at home. So I would personally take that out and replace it with something different. And I would probably just add in some extra shreddable toys like cardboard ones, yucca, balsa, palm leaf as well are really brilliant. And I think that would be really cool for your budgie to have a great shred on, because budgies are fantastic shredders. But sometimes we need to kind of tweak which toys we give them. But the same thing as well, like I said with the conures, you could also switch out the budgies toys if you don't do it already. You could give them something different either every day if they're confident, or maybe every week, maybe even every month if they're a bit more nervous about new things. But I always promote switching up, not necessarily the perches because sometimes they just really work, but switching up the toys. If you've seen any of my vlogs, you'll know I have a bit of a toy problem. I buy a lot of toys, so it means I do have a lot of variety, so I can switch them out. But I also do make a lot of DIY toys as well, so if you need to be a bit more budget conscious, you can make some DIY toys and switch those in. But I think this is a cool setup, and your budgie looks very happy in there, so thank you so much for submitting. I really appreciate it. So the next submission is another anonymous one, which is absolutely fine, and they have a beautiful blue budgie at the top there who's sitting on a swing. I really like swings. We actually have a West Coast kebab swing that was very kindly sent to us, and Olive just loves it. She spends so much time on there, it's really brilliant. The boys sometimes have just a simple kind of dowel swing because they've got all the different natural perches, so it's okay to have like a little bit of dowel in there as a swing. But yeah, swings are awesome, and I talked about this in my exercise video. Swings are really brilliant at getting your birds to use different muscles as well, so if you can offer your bird a swing and train them how to use it, I think they'd really enjoy it, so that's brilliant. I love the variety of perches you've got in here. You've got like flat manzanita perches, you've got bobbly ones, you've got natural ones. Yeah, they're really brilliant variety, and that's going to be great for keeping your bird's feet really nice and healthy. You've got stainless steel bowls, which are brilliant. You've also got some like rattan wicker balls, which are awesome too. And I see a West Coast kebab in the back, again another of our favourite kind of toys, because they are so easy to shred. But in terms of suggestions, I would maybe try and utilise a little bit more of the bottom of the cage. And I see that there's obviously a huge gap between the like the grate and the kind of base, so you couldn't necessarily use a substrate base in there. Although you could, if you can get one through the door, you could actually have like a clean cat litter tray or something like that, just kind of a box on the floor so they could have a substrate base, because some of these cages are really like weirdly designed that they don't think about the birds in mind that, you know, are natural ground feeders. So whilst you can't necessarily have a substrate base, you could put like some sort of tray in there so they could still have a little forage on the floor, or you could place paper on the top there because the bars can be a little bit harsh on a bird's feet. But they're just a couple of suggestions that you could try. I think possibly a couple of your toys have like plastic on them and bells. I've spoken about bells in pretty much every single one of my videos. There are safe alternative bells to the ones that you get on pretty much every single bird toy. They, you know, the normal bell shape. Quite often the clapper can come off, it can hurt your bird's tongue, they can get it caught on them, they can get it caught on their beak. So I always try and recommend that people take bells off their toys, or they have them completely supervised. But as usual, I will put the link to the safe type of bell. If you have a bird that really enjoys noise, you can maybe switch this one in instead. But of course, every bird is different, but I like to just offer my experience. I have a lot of experience with budgies as well. Whilst we don't have them as pets at the moment, I have worked with lots of budgies, and I just find that easy shreddables are just such a hit with budgies. That could be something as simple as paper, cardboard, as I've said already, palm leaf, and I know you've got the yucca in there, which is brilliant, but I think going for more natural materials that birds can shred over some of the kind of more indestructible ones like plastic are going to be more beneficial for your bird to display natural behaviours. You can have like one or two that are kind of designed for noise, if you like, or for thrashing about, but generally speaking you want most of your bird toys to be the kind that get destroyed, because if your birds have had the same toys in their cage for a really long time, they're not necessarily serving the purpose, because as I've already said, parrots are destructive creatures and they need to be you know, chewing things and exercising that beak, wearing that beak down, and it's just what they do. So if you can incorporate maybe some DIY toys, again we've got a video on the channel here, so you can go and have a look at some of our suggestions. I'm going to be making another one as well, where I actually got some different pieces that I need to start like putting together, and then I'll make another video on DIY toys because they are so popular and they are very budget friendly as well. But you're doing a great job so far, your budgie is beautiful, love those perches in there, it's really brilliant. So yeah, I think you're doing a brilliant job. You've got the cuttlefish as well, super important too. So thank you so much for submitting. So next up is a submission from Carly. Now Carly is actually one of my patrons over on Patreon, so thank you so much for signing up to my Patreon, Carly. I really appreciate it, and you're absolutely fantastic. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about my Patreon and what we offer over there, including exclusive videos not on YouTube and handwritten cards from yours truly, then do head over. I've got a link down in the description. But yeah, thank you so much, Carly, for signing up. So this is your cage for Bella, your pineapple conure, who is beautifully modelled in the photo. So first of all, this is a really lovely cage size. I think it's brilliant. There's lots of space to move around in there. You've got some West Cocoa bobs, which are brilliant. You've got the back right, there's like a corn cob kind of toy. I bought that as well. We have a lot of similar toys here. There's lots of natural perches. There's stainless steel bowls. I know you said in your email that there were some bells on the toys, that you've already removed those. That's awesome. Got a cotton rope buoying down the back there. Now some birds will want to chew rope. Again, this is another one that gets brought up in all of my videos. Cotton rope can, for some birds, pose a risk if they like to chew rope. It's often best to go for things like sisal or jute, hemp, coconut, that kind of thing. However, some birds won't chew it, so it really depends on the individual. For example, chip and fish, they will chew cotton rope, so they can't have any, whereas the conures don't tend to chew it, so we could put some in there if we wanted to. But that's just something to consider and something to point out for other people who are viewing this video. But yeah, you've got a lovely variety. I think there's like a shoelace toy that I already mentioned in one of the previous submissions, so I'd maybe take that out or replace it with something more natural. I love the ladders as well, and I love how you're trying to utilise the base. That's really cool. The one thing I'd point out on the base, I don't know if these are puppy liners or if they're a different kind, but if you out there use puppy pad kind of liners for your cages, I would recommend not using that in the future, because quite often they contain a chemical which actually attracts the dog to go and pee on these puppy pads, and that chemical is not great for your birds to be around. And also, if they did actually decide to chew the puppy pads, that is going to cause potential crop impaction. So we always like to avoid any mishaps with our birds, because if they can find danger, they will. So that's why I'm so passionate about Easy Chick. As you know, I'm a brand ambassador for Easy Chick, and I do talk about them a lot, but we were using them long before I was a brand ambassador, and we are so passionate about offering a kind of substrate base to your bird's cage. So if you can maybe potentially do that instead, or use just white printer paper would be fine as well. I think that'll be a safer option. But I absolutely love your setup for Bella. I think it's really fun. I like the Java perch on top as well, and you are doing an amazing job. Now Carly also recently got a crimson bellied conure called Ruby, who's also very beautiful, and I thought I'd just show this cage. It's very similar. but I wanted to point out just a couple of things. This particular style of cage is very popular and I get asked about it a lot, like why didn't we choose it and that kind of thing. The only reason we didn't choose this kind of cage is because the actual holes to get into the cage kind of change things up are quite small, and I like to like climb in the cage and like really, you know, get involved in things and change it all around. So that's one of the downsides of this model of cage. But you've got loads of awesome toys. It's all very similar to Bella's. Got the ladders and things, and we've already spoken about the base. The one thing I would just keep an eye on is the ball that you've got down there. Again, these balls often come with kind of jingles and they're best sort of out of the cage and supervised. We do have one for our conures. They get very overexcited playing with it, but I would only give it to them for a short period of time outside of the cage just to keep an eye on. So you could change it up with different floor toys, maybe yucca pieces, or some of the DIY toys that we've done that are kind of more floor toy based. That could be really cool. But I love both your setups and you're doing an awesome job with your birdies. The next submission is from Timothy, and he has Rainbow the conure, and this is Rainbow's setup. I did actually send some kind of suggestions to Timothy when I got this through, so I don't know if you've made any of the changes in there, but I'd like to just go on what people sent me, and sometimes it takes me a little while to get around to these videos because I don't want to kind of spam you guys with cage reaction videos. I really like how the cage has like an open top with the bar going across, so your bird can kind of be on top of the cage and having a look around. You've got some coconut toys in there which are quite interesting, and generally speaking, if this was more of like a sleeper cage or a cage that they're not in that often because they have loads of play stands and things, that would be fine. It really depends on how much time they're able to be out and what opportunities they have when they're out. For example, Java tree stands, play top stands, tabletop stands. I know you've got like a cotton rope going on the outside. So this would be a good cage for a bird that is out all the time because then they're not in there that often. I also noticed that you've got 3 bowls. I'd be again curious to see what you have in each bowl. As I said, with our guys, we have, you know, food in one and then water in the other, and we just change it out twice a day. So there's another of those kind of shoelace toys in there. I think what would be really good for this cage is some more shreddable toys. So the palm leaf, the yucca, balsa, I think that would be really awesome for Rainbow. I think Rainbow really enjoy those because conures are so good at shredding. I know our conures just go absolutely wild for yucca. So that would be really cool, and I think maybe having some perches going in different ways, different textures of perches as well are also really, really important because I think these are dowels. They could be scored, but again I can only see so much because, you know, I'm visually impaired, but also I can only see what I've got here in the pictures. So I think having some alternative perches, mixing them up, moving in different ways would be really good and will help Rainbow exercise their feet. And also just having like a dedicated sleeping perch in there, so just having one kind of at the top in the corner for Rainbow to sleep on, and having some different opportunities to make it easier to go down to the floor as well. And speaking of the floor, looking at this cage, I think it would be quite easy to use a substrate base in here. So take the grill out and then put something like Easy Chick in there, and then Rainbow can use the floor, have a little scrabble around, see what's going on, and you can put some floor toys in there as well. So thank you so much for submitting. Rainbow is very beautiful, and I think with some modifications this could be a really interesting setup. So the next submission is from Zakia. I hope I'm saying your name right, I do apologise. However, I'm not going to pronounce your birds' names, your cockatiels, because you said not to in your email, but also they're very intriguing names. So I'd be very curious to see how they are pronounced. But here is their setup, and they have got a huge space, and there could be so much that could be done with this, so we'll talk about that in a second. But first of all, I like how you've got kind of different levels going on. You've got like a toilet roll stuffed with crinkle paper by the looks of it, which looks really cool. You've got lots of different kind of material toys. I think there's like some wicker rattan balls in the back, which is very cool as well. Different kind of perches at the top there. There's quite a few sort of different bits going at the top. And I also like that there's horizontal bars. I think quite often cage manufacturers don't always make horizontal bars, and I think they're just so much easier for birds to kind of move around on. So I like that your cage has got that, and it's such a big space as well, as I said. In terms of some things that you could potentially change to enhance that space, I think that probably 2/3, maybe even half of this cage is unused. It's kind of empty, and I think if you utilise some natural perches, you could actually twist them down so they can actually use most of that cage, because at the moment they're only using that top half or third, and you could actually make the whole space really accessible to them with different perches. You could use boings that go down in natural materials, and that would really open up the space as well and provide even more opportunities for fun. As I've said in other submissions, maybe some kind of easy shreddables like paper and palm leaf would be really cool for cockatiels. Our boys absolutely love those and they spend so much time just shredding them and having a great time. The other thing I'd like to say as well is you have like plastic looking bowls, I think, and as I've said before, I find plastic is harder to keep clean, but also if your plastic bowls or drinkers have corners, you're always going to get a bacteria build-up in there. Way back in the day I used to use plastic kind of square like bowls and feeders and things like that, and there'd always be a build-up of bacteria and kind of goo and gunk in those corners, and you have to get a toothbrush and scrub it out. It'd be a nightmare. So I just find the round stainless steel bowls are just much easier to keep clean, and they're just, yeah, so much easier. So that could be something to consider. And of course, if you're making any changes, your birds may be nervous, so just give them some reassurance and some tasty treats as well to get them used to it. And also same as well with actually utilising the rest of that space. They may need training to actually go down to the base of the cage or to a lower part, so you can use target training to get them to go down there, give them loads of reinforcement and treats, and make it really accessible and enjoyable to go down there. So lots of different things to do. But this is such an amazing space for your birds, and I think with some tweaks this could be really enriching and engaging, just utilising more of that space. So thank you so much, Akia, for your submission. I really appreciate it, and thanks so much for watching my videos. And the final submissions are from Zoe. Hi Zoe. And I'm pretty sure, if I've seen correctly from Instagram, these cage setups have changed slightly. I'm pretty sure that Zoe actually changes up her setups quite regularly, which is why I wanted to give that kind of caveat at the start there, that I can only go based on what I've been sent, and sometimes it takes me a little while to get around to filming the video. But we're going to go as if it was these cage setups, because it may be beneficial for you guys to kind of see that and see where I would suggest changes if you have a similar setup. So this is for Molly, the conure, and I think it's an interesting size space. And I know that the birds are out a lot, which is awesome. We've got a lovely seagrass mat at the front there, you've got some foraging toys, you've got some floor toys. I see you've got paper at the base there, which is great because it's going to be kinder on Molly's feet. You've got like perches on the outside as well, so really utilising the outside of the cage as well as the inside, which is cool. So I think that's a really great space. And you've also got a ladder in there too, so that's awesome as well. If I was going to make some suggestions, I know you've got this kind of towel on the top there. I don't know if that's because you cover them at night or if it's because you don't want the budgies getting their feet bitten off by Molly. I would just, if it is for the latter, for worrying about feet and that kind of thing, I'd maybe just take it off and then only have it on when you need to, because it does make the space quite dark. However, if the birds are really out, you know, all day long and they've got play stands and other things to do, it's not so much of a big deal. But I think that, you know, there's so much going on here. I think this is really brilliant. I think, as I already know, you change your toys around regularly, which is great. You could even change the perches around and maybe add just some slightly easier shreddables. I'm struggling for kind of suggestions here because it is a brilliant space given your kind of setup and things, but maybe some like yucca, balsa and paper would be really cool as well. Finally from Zoe as well is the setup for Taka and Teal, the budgies. This was the best kind of one that I could pick, that I could see most of the cage in. So we've got some amazing kind of cork bark at the front there, and you've got like a Hessian sack, loads of natural perches, which I love, foraging toys, this interesting ring at the top there where they can perch and maybe even swing around on. I love that. You've also got paper on the floor, which is going to be great for their feet and easy to clean as well. And also some really interesting floor toys as well. I know you've got like a little kind of foraging tray set up. You've got a plant pot there with some foraging bits in. I think that's really brilliant and innovative, so that's awesome. I can't quite tell from the photo, so please forgive me if you already have this, but I think having some slightly higher up perches dedicated for sleeping, so with no kind of toys around necessarily, just for sleeping for the budgies would be probably a little bit better for them, because it's just a bit easier for them to sleep and they would feel safer. But again, I really like this setup. There's some easy shreddables. You could pack in some more easy shreddables. The one other thing I wanted to mention, just if I'm going to be really nitpicky, is there is like a rubber duck toy in there. I'm not the biggest fan of those either, unsurprisingly, if you haven't guessed that by now. Any kind of like plasticky toys I'm not overly keen on unless they're a certain kind. Budgies, you know, they have a decent bite. You know, I think people underestimate how much they can shred and how quickly they can shred as well. So personally, I would take it out. If your budgies really enjoy kind of rattling it around, you could just keep a really close eye on it. But I think you could easily take that off and then still have a great toy there with the, I think it's like a pine cone and like rattan ball and things. So I don't think it's 100% necessary to have the duck thing in there. And you could even add a couple of extra toy parts on to replace it, just to kind of fill up the chain. But I really enjoyed both of your submissions. Your birds are beautiful, and thank you so much for sending in your photos. So that brings me to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed seeing other people's setups and my thoughts on them, things to change, things to tweak, because none of us are perfect, and even, you know, I'm always tweaking and changing our setups back here, always looking for inspiration and ideas to make things better. We are always learning, and I just think that, you know, if I can offer some advice and you're willing to submit, then we can have a really fun time over here and have a look at people's setups. The aim of this is always to be kind and to just give honest advice as well. So those are my thoughts on those setups. As I said, if you would like to submit for the next one, all the info is going to be down below. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Take care and see you later.